Okay. It's that time again. Manic Music Media Monday. And this is the first time on Manic Music Media number 5 that we're actually running a little bit later than we're supposed to and that we ever did. But it is still Monday somewhere, so I'm not going to let that get in my way of things. Also, the reason why we weren't able to get to things today is because I had a lovely museum date with my mother, which I am going to say was a top priority. We always get to these moments in fall where we have nice little cute moments together and we get to do those things. But that's enough of a little bit of a manic rant. Today is Manic Music Media Monday somewhere. And being that it is the first Monday after Thanksgiving, I think it's appropriate that we have a conversation about overconsumption. Because if you just take a look at, let's say, just the top 10, the first 10 items on my watch list on Netflix. I was looking at them the other day on Netflix. That's what makes me bring up this conversation. So I'm looking at them, and it dawns on me that it is going to take me months just to get through these. And that is just on Netflix. Then we have Hulu. Then we have Apple TV. Then we have... I had a moment. This is a bit of a side tangent, but it's still on the same road. I had a moment. I might have been a little bit stoned. It might have been like 4 o'clock in the morning where I was flipping through. I can't even remember. It was probably Hulu, because it was one of the streaming services that I don't actually spend that much time on. And I'm flipping through the streaming services, and I'm having a quite orgasmic moment when I'm looking at all these movies and I'm going, damn, I want to watch that movie. Damn, I want to watch that movie. Oh, I have to go to sleep right now. But damn, I want to watch this movie. I want to watch that movie. I want to watch that movie. So not only, to bring it back home, not only on my Netflix top 10, but if we calculated that with my Apple TV watch list, with my Hulu watch list, with all of the other streaming services that never get used, but if I browse through real quick, I'm like, that looks interesting. Let's call it Paramount Plus. Let's give Peacock a name in there. They don't really get thrown into the list of that. On top of podcasts. Okay, I think I have said it enough. If I was to just sit back and watch nothing but those, it would take me months. And a big part of me wishes that I could do that. A big part of me wishes that my life could just be spent sitting around, watching content all day, smoking weed, eating food, working out, stretching. Almost like what the first 3 months of quarantine were like. Also stressing about money. But really, I mean, when I say it like that, thinking about it, it sounds like I should just really lean into my Twitch career, which is what this is. But this is a full-time gig, right? And I love these moments that I have that we spend with each other, but I don't really want to spend all day with you staring at me. Believe it or not, I am a big fan of privacy. But there's also a whole other part of me that just wants to turn the TVs off and just do nothing but focus on work. And towards the end of high school, I had that a little bit where I was just watching no television shows. I was watching no content. I was spending all days on the AIMS chats, on the interwebs, on the nets, on the MySpaces. But part of me also goes, yes, I should just turn off all this content and just do nothing but focus on work. But realistically, how off would that make me? I am focused on creating this content, focused on creating media, and I have no idea, no envision, no capacity, no understanding of what else is going on. What other creators are creating, what makes what they do creating. That's why I enjoy going to the movies. That's why I enjoy watching all of these films and the things that I want. But there also is a part of it that keeps me in the loop. No matter how much I avoid the grid and try to stay out of it, it keeps me in the loop. But there gets a point in every work week that I have where I look at the task list that I have created for myself. I get overwhelmed. I get paralyzed. Not like nostalgia. Paralysis. But like a overload, like a machine can't work. And I think the best way to call it is just overwhelmingness, right? Over consumption, over stuff. I don't know. We'll call it overconsumption today because it works with the whole Thanksgiving thing. But in those moments where it's too much to handle and it feels like too much, I always have to try to remind myself to be healthy, right? Like, first take a breath, take the energy of whatever I'm feeling, whatever that blockade, whatever that barrier, whatever that thing that's in the way is, and convert that energy. Convert it into motivation to just stop and take things one step at a time, one task at a time. And I had to take that moment and remind myself that with the content and with the media. I'm never going to be able to watch everything. Never going to be able to know everything. I'm never going to be able to be in tune with everything. There are going to always so many loops going around, and I'm not always going to be involved in them, and that's okay. But what I can do is enjoy it one clip at a time, one piece of footage at a time, one streaming device at a time, one film at a time, one music at a time, one song at a time, one album at a time, one video at a time. And just remember that this is a beautiful thing. This access is an incredible thing. And I'm never going to be able to appreciate it all, but if I was able to just take it all in and completely divulge into that world where I'm just consuming everything that comes of interest to me, that wouldn't be healthy. So always having things to look forward to, that is healthy. Let's get into it. Manic Music Media number 5. So, by now, we have how this goes, right? Like, you got, damn it, I thought I had it this time. I really thought I had it. But you got the watch list here, right? You got all the way up from Sunday. Got what I'm watching. All the way down to Friday. I don't really watch things on Saturday unless it's like a wrestling pay-per-view. So, that's it. If you want to tune in what it is, Reyes told me that he likes the side because it reminds him of the news, which I very much appreciated because I think it's important for you to understand really what the list goes by, what the week goes by. It's a great explanation of what it breaks down. But as always, we've got a formula. Let's stick to it. Let's get into the memorial section of the shows that we are saying goodbye to this month. Now, last month I talked about how it was in the fall, right before an election season, so you get all of these shows that are politically bound and commentary like that. So a lot of those shows ended. So we're not going to spend too much time really talking about that. The circus is on a break, which, as geeky and as politically nerdy as it sounds, it is genuinely one of my favorite shows of the week. It is just so well made, documentary style. Last Week Tonight is on break. Real Time with Bill Maher is on break. Real Time with Bill Maher, I have been disagreeing with him so much recently. He's really on this, like, trying to connect with the right wing, and I'm an independent to the fullest extent, so I don't care about what the Democrats or what the Republicans are saying, right? Like, in terms of staying by your side, staying by your team, whatever. That's the issue. But what he's doing is like hitting all of these just talking points that are television talking points that don't deal with the actual world, and it's a little bit obnoxious. But let's get into a show that ended this past month, called The Foundation. We talked about The Foundation on last episode, at least, if not the episode before that as well. It was a show that I was really excited to start. You know, it was based off of Asimov's novels, which range such a wide variety of things. And on a week-to-week basis, though it might have been telling like a pretty complex story that bounced around time, I really enjoyed it. The issue with that, and this is not the only time that this is going to come up in this episode, the issue with that is that if you don't, no matter how much I enjoyed it, if you don't leave me satisfied at the end, I'm not going to have a good thought of the show, right? Like, that's what happened with Game of Thrones. We were so invested. And even if the ending wasn't terrible or wasn't the worst thing in the world, because it didn't satisfy us, it left us wanting more. It left us feeling unsatisfied. And sadly, that is what The Foundation did for me. Right? Like, so I don't like when a show just keeps revealing itself as it happens. Not storyline wise, but like the physics and the reality of and the lore of the show. Right? Like, I think one of the things that's most important about a show is that you, in the first few episodes, you explain what the boundaries are. You explain what the leverages are, right? Like, if you're a show that's about superheroes, like, you explain, okay, people have powers. Then you have to tell us what goes around. Okay, are powers normal in this world? Does everybody understand what powers are? No. Okay, this powers are hidden here. Or, yes, people like this have powers, right? Like, you have to explain what the boundaries of the show are. And I felt like The Foundation did that very well. Until we start getting to the last episode and things just start happening and you're going, I didn't know that was even possible in this show. And it's not enjoyable because I understand it's now possible. I'm just going like, what the hell? Oh, cool. If that was an option, if I knew that was an option, or if I felt that was an option, or if it was a sensible and a logical option, then I would have been thinking that this whole time. Oh, in that case, like, yes, it's obvious. But it doesn't feel good at the end. And that's the sad part. Like, and maybe it's the fact that some characters are lying to each other on the show. So as a viewer, I'm supposed to also feel lied to. But it's not that I feel lied to. It's not that I feel betrayed. It's not that I feel deceived. I feel like you didn't do your job right. And maybe that's the issue with trying to adapt the Asimov novels. Maybe it's too big of a story to grasp into 10 episodes. But I feel like they were very much telling a wide-spanning story in the beginning of the season, and then the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes just take place on a 1 to 2 day span. And maybe that's not how you had to tell the story. Ultimately, the storyline that became the main storyline, the Terminus storyline, was corny. And because it ended corny, it made all of the things that led up to it that felt a little bit corny while it was happening, but I was okay with it just because I was seeing where it was going. It made all of those things feel corny. So now episodes I enjoyed, I go back and I'm going, yeah, but that corniness shit that happened was leading me up to the next corny thing. The thing that I will say was really enjoyable and which really took me by surprise, the most oddest, the most bizarre, the story that was probably the hardest to grasp, the Empire story, became the most interesting part about it. And it dived into human consciousness and faith and what it means to be alive and what it means to be real and what does it mean if and can you be defective. It asked all of these questions, and it started so surface level, and it started with characters that seemed so obviously villainous, and it seemed so obvious that their purpose in the story was to be a villain and to cause conflict. And somewhere, and in a very big way, that story changed, and it really turned into a inner consciousness, reflective narrative plot. You see how like quiet and how still I got for a second? That's because genuinely those are the questions that it brings onto you. There's also an issue in the show where, like, as I mentioned, the last few episodes happen in like a day or a two span, but other things that are a century and a half long take place in 45 seconds. So I'm going, wait a minute, we spent 2 episodes on in a 24 to 48 hour span, and then and in 5 minutes you're gonna take me 160 years into the future, and then I'm just supposed to be there with you with these characters that I just was with you 160 years. It holds no weight and it gives no depth to anything that happens in the show. And ultimately it was disappointing. Obviously if there's a season 2, I'm going to watch it. And I don't know why I say obviously, because with the way that I'm describing it, it doesn't seem like it would be a show that I would watch again. But I enjoyed it. I was just highly disappointed at the end of it. Damn. I don't want this episode to feel like I'm shitting on shows, because I'm realizing that the next show I am going to say goodbye to is another show that I'm probably not going to have. I'm probably not. I am not going to have the highest ratings for. I'm not going to have the most positive reaction and recap to. But it's another story that I did enjoy. And actually holds a very close spot to this black hole heart of mine. But ultimately, I think was a failure. And it's not in every sense of the word, because let's get to where it was successful. I'm talking about Cowboy Bebop. So Cowboy Bebop was successful because Netflix recreated an anime that had characters that kind of resembled the original, and had a set dressing that very closely resembled the original piece of work. That seems like a low bar. In this Hollywood film remake, and it's just dawned on me that I didn't see Ghostbusters, and I didn't even realize that. That should be included in this episode. In this Hollywood remake of a world, that low bar does not get hit very often, so that is a success. The issue with Cowboy Bebop is that if you have ever watched the original, if you have ever felt connected, if you've ever connected with the original, then this new Netflix show completely missed the tone of that. It's almost as if they got rid of all of those things that I call successful, and they were able to just take two of the characters from the anime and recreate them what they really felt like. In a dark room with nothing else but a white table. If they were actually able to capture the tone and the spirit and the true impact of each episode, it might be more important than getting a spaceship that actually looks like the spaceship from the show, or villains that look identical to the villains from the show. Now, Cowboy Bebop premiered in like 1998, I think. So think about what that means to me. I'm a 30-year-old man with Digimon tattoos, and yes, we live in 2021 now, where you're not a cool kid under the age of 16 if you're not into anime, but it wasn't like that when I was growing up. The Dragon Ball Z kid, was a very specific type of kid. Now that's every kid, and kudos to the world for evolving and changing, but that wasn't every kid. So me wasn't an anime person. So I was never really an anime person. That was not my thing. Digimon was something that always touched me. It was like, it's not so much anime, it's more just Japanese cartoon, adventure. Cowboy Bebop was also something that touched me. As a 6-year-old, I could say that and maybe Devilman were the only other two real animes that I was into. And so what else is going on that year? You have the Silver Surfer cartoon is also 1998. Another movie that I absolutely love that hopefully I watch very soon and we get to talk about this on one of the episodes is Xenon Girl of the 21st Century. This Disney Channel original movie that touched my heart. Kirsten Storm was on a soap opera that my grandmother was watching the other day, and I was like, wow, you're Xenon. You still act. Cool. So the story, the visuals had such a strong impact on my childhood, my growing up, that those are the reference points of what I think is cool today. Like, that's what I think is awesome. That space, futuristic, cyberpunk. You saw MANIC Music Media number 4. That's what I'm like. That's what I like. But the beautiful thing about Cowboy Bebop is the apathy of the characters. All of this is going around them, and they are liars. They keep things to themselves. They can barely pull themselves to wake up in the morning because of the past and because of the way that they are connected to the things that have happened to them. In this futuristic world where anything can happen, but it is also so mundane that they are out going on these dangerous, everyday, life-risking missions, and it means nothing to them. And Netflix did not capture, and probably could never capture that, because that is not an enjoyable show, right? When, you have to make me fall in love with the characters. When you have to make these characters good people with good backgrounds, with intention, and with motivation. The beautiful thing about Cowboy Bebop was that it didn't need any of that. It was just a show, an everyday cowboy western type of vibe of people living in the world that is too harsh for them to be able to handle. Yet the only reason that they are still getting by is because there are other people that are also living in a world just as harsh, trying to handle it. And Netflix failed on that. And Cho, who is, I think, a great actor and is great and is charming and could definitely be a movie star, like a leading movie film star in a action movie star, and that's what he should be doing. He was not the right fit for Spike. Like, he made Spike a very likable character. Oh, he's whimsy, he's cute. It was very 70s, Tarantino. But that is not what makes Spike interesting. So, I've heard people say, like, oh, the show's good. Like, this show is very good. If you have never seen Cowboy Bebop, awesome. I'd be like, hey, watch it. If you are just looking for a space-like cool show on Netflix, go ahead and watch Cowboy Bebop. But if you want a show that has true depth of emotion and a place where you don't expect it, to dive back into it. The thing about, like, Cowboy Bebop is, like, you'll have an episode, if you just speak about the first episode of Cowboy Bebop, the anime, which also almost gets recreated scene by scene inside the film. The interesting thing about that is that you see a pregnant woman who is being an accomplice to her boyfriend, who is about to do a crazy crime. And she's bout it. She's with it. She is doing this, but the only reason she's doing this is because she thinks it's her only way to get out of it. And as they go on this crime spree, as they try to commit this crime, Spike gets in the way of it. And Spike almost immediately resembles what she wishes her boyfriend really was. And there is a moment inside the show, which it's an anime, right? Like, it could all be action. There's a moment where Spike and the girl just get to speak, and they just get to talk. And he is using her because he knows what's going on, but she is into him because she wishes that was the type of man that she was with. Then we watch her boyfriend recognize that, get jealous, and then the big fight scene happens. And all as the fight scene happens, the girl is looking at Spike, then looking at her boyfriend, and thinking about the life and the situation and the circumstances that she's in. That's the complexity of a 22-minute anime, and I didn't even get into the details of anything else. That's just one subplot. And Netflix did almost a scene-by-scene recreation of that, and did very little to capture any of that. Decided to focus on a million other things with that subplot. And that's sad, and that's disappointing. And even though they did a good job in creating a show, I almost feel like you shouldn't be allowed to touch it if you don't really understand what the original show was about. Once again, I enjoyed it. I watched the whole thing. Not in a binge, I watched it over a few days. I really did like it. But I also see it as exactly the issue. What we spoke about on Manic Music Monday number 3, how Hollywood has been able to cash in on our nostalgia. I also think it is an example of that going terribly, terribly wrong. But also doing exactly what it wants to do. And that's the problem. It doesn't care about what the original art was. It cares about making money and being able to keep creating what it wants to create. And if it doesn't get a season 2, it doesn't matter because it's just going to redo that to some other show. Now let's give Netflix some props and let's give Kevin Hart some props, right? Because people shit on Kevin Hart, I think, right? Or does everybody love Kevin Hart? I don't know, actually. I like Kevin Hart, though. I'm really into Kevin Hart. What I'm really into Kevin Hart probably more than anything is how he showcases other comedians, but also like how he talks about the importance of an email list. Like that is something that I live with every day because of Kevin Hart. But I enjoy Kevin Hart. I don't see all of Kevin Hart's films. I've seen a very good amount of them. There's a bunch of great ones that I know that I haven't seen that people are like, when I tell them they haven't seen it, like they're like, damn, you haven't seen that? Like a few ones with The Rock, right? There's like the cop one. I haven't seen a lot of, even his dramatic films. I know I haven't seen a lot of Kevin Hart films. I've seen all of his stand-up shows though. They're enjoyable. So, I didn't know about Kevin Hart's Netflix show, True Story. I didn't know it was coming out. It was Thanksgiving weekend. I was just flipping through the channels. And I see Kevin Hart has this show. And I watched the trailer for it and I'm like, oh, this is extremely interesting. Look at the details. Oh, first episode's an hour. The rest of the shows are about half an hour to 40 minutes. Perfect, quick. Oh, it's a limited series. So I know that it's going to have a conclusive ending at the ending. Great. I think I watched the first episode, liked it, enjoyed it. Maybe went back and watched Cowboy Bebop and then was like, no, I'm watching True Story. Got to the point that, a few episodes in, each episode ends and I'm like, oh, damn, I just need to know how this ends. Now, it wasn't in the sense where you watch a show, I probably spoke about another show recently where I did this. It'll probably come up. We'll see. Where every episode ends and I go, damn! What's going to happen next? I need to watch it. It's not that type of show. It's a type of show where I had an idea of where it was going. It did something extremely big, but I guess to maybe not a trained viewer could be seen as subtle, but it did something very big in the first episode that I'm like, this is for a reason. This has to be for a reason. Let me find out what that reason is. So I watch every episode going, all right, they didn't get into that in this episode. When is that going to happen? When is that going to come up? So it's a dark loom. And there's a tension that never ends. And I think that's one of the real successful things that it does, is that every moment it just has you sweating. It has the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. You want to figure out, why are you doing this? It's also me watching niggas doing dumb shit that niggas shouldn't be doing. And that is always a watch, which is like sad, like right? Like we shouldn't want to see that. But you're rooting for the niggas to not do what you know you rooting for them not to do the dumb shit that nigga might do. And going back to what I mentioned, speaking about the foundation, I really enjoyed the ending. It hit the thing that I was curious about, the thing that I wanted to know more information about. It wrapped it all up. And it gave me a baseline to move forward with. And I don't need a show to answer all of my questions and to wrap everything up. But if telling the best story is giving me some of that and giving me more of that, then damn it, you should. And if that part is interesting, and if that part is going to be, if what you can come up with is more interesting than what I can come up with in my mind, then damn it, show it to me. And I think they did that. I think they really did that. I binged all episodes, 6 hours. I was up till 5 a.m. Oh, and on the last episode, I went back. I skimmed back, and I'm tired. It's 5 a.m. I'm skimming back, and I'm watching parts again. Because I'm like, oh, he said that, and that, and that, and that. Oh, that's what they decided to do. Oh. So that was all really interesting to me. I give a round of applause to Kevin Hart. I think you did a hell of a good job. I think you killed that. And I think So I'm a wrestling fan. You know this. Look at the watch list. There is a lot of hours of wrestling. Damn it, I didn't do it again. There are a lot of hours of wrestling on this watch list. And one thing that we talk about in the wrestling world is a work. Like when you take parts of reality and you take parts of the narrative and you twist them and you blend them and you make them so that the audience has no idea what's going on and it feels unpredictable. Now, I don't think Kevin Hart went through anything similar to what True Story is about. But because he adds so much of Kevin Hart into it that the back of your mind still goes there. Where you're like, oh, what made you write this? Like, what did you go through that was similar to like this? Because this seems like some shit that people in your situation could go through and actually do go through. And that's it for the memorial section. We'll be right back with some newcomers. So actually not that many newcomers on this episode. We're like in this November holiday season, so everything is trying to end before Christmas. So not many new shows are starting, and the ones that have started are limited. So, oh, and I did mention that the politics ended, but Vice, not Vice News, but Vice's Showtime show is back. That seems to be what replaced the circus on Sunday nights. So that's cool. It's still nice to be able to get some documentary, I get some information. Vice is such a sad and depressing show because it's always about some amazing investigative researcher, journalist who has spent the last 6 months to 8 months of their life, year to their life, few weeks of their life, diving into something that's so important that so little people actually know something about. And I'm constantly thinking, like, what trauma are you going through by having to be a part of this? By going through Afghanistan? By being in Cuba and the cops chasing you? What are your Thanksgiving dinners like? It's just what I'm thinking. Another newcomer, going back to anime a little bit, is Genlock, which is not really anime, right? This is HBO Max's version of anime. Michael B. Jordan, stars in it. What's her name? Arya from Game of Thrones is in it. And I enjoy it. It's a good adult cartoon that happens once a week, 22-minute episodes. I appreciate HBO Max for doing it. I appreciate the stars for doing it. I will say, we are in season 2. Believe last week was episode 4. This week may be episode 5. I will say, this season has really reached a new level of complexity about identity. Because really, I believe what the show ultimately is about your agency. The characters have the ability to kind of go to this virtual world where they can live with each other. But the more time they spend connected with each other, like the more of their secrets and the more of their mind and their memories get shared with each other. So there's a question of, what's more important, saving a city or giving up the important parts of you that make you you? And if you share these parts with other people, are they still yours? So the show is really about identity and agency. And season 2 has taken a very, I think, brave approach where they have taken the world that they've built, the lore that they've built us in, and the truths that they have that told us, and now they are saying, hey, maybe the truths that we believed aren't so true. And this cartoon is doing that idea better than the Foundation did that idea, even though the Foundation was trying to ask the same question. But the reason why the anime Genlock has been able to do that is because they're giving you more in-depth behind these stories. They're giving you more details than you had before. And it's building upon the building blocks that were already there rather than just introducing new things. So specifically in Season 2, Episode 4 had this sex scene. And I want to compliment the show, as I have been, for the complexity that this one scene encapsulated into it. Because not only is it a sex scene in an adult cartoon, which I think, no matter how common it is, it's still interesting because you feel the need to have to show me these characters having sex with each other, and we're not watching a hentai or a soft porn or something like that. But also because this show infused so many ideas that have been building from the first season into this one scene, and I was just like, damn, what an interesting concept to capture, to make me think, to make me take a moment and wander about my identity and about my agency. The next show that I get to talk about is something I am so damn excited about. Is it on this list? It is not on this list, but it should. It should be on this list. I assure you. Oh, actually, it's probably already going to be done by next episode. But Hawkeye. I've seen a few people crap on it, but Hawkeye is so damn good. I don't even have notes on Hawkeye because I watched both episodes twice. Because, as I said in the nostalgia episode, build me a world that I want to live in, and I will spend all day in it. I will spend my life in it. And that is what the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe has been, right? It makes me love it. But Hawkeye, what Hawkeye did that Eternals, which I'm going to get into it in the film section of today's show. What Hawkeye did is the same thing that I just complimented Genlock for doing. It built upon a world that I already am so vastly immersed into, and it gave me different sides of it and different truths to it. It's also very funny. It's also, action scenes are great, and I also think that it's very smart where it doesn't explain everything to you. It really does feel like a die-hard action film, which is taking you for a ride, but is also intelligent and making you fill in gaps and holes yourself, and also focuses so much on character and building the environment that you just strap in for a ride. Like I said, it's so good. It's so good. I love Hawkeye's time with his family. I love the parody of the Broadway show of the Marvel Universe. I enjoy Kate Bishop a lot. She's not a bad character. I do think that when you really lean into the millennial thing, or the Gen Z thing, I guess she would be, like, in a way it can make the character not likable. Maybe that's because I'm a millennial, and I think that sometimes they try to highlight things where they're like, we're trying to explain to you that this character is Gen Z, and I'm like, well, that It doesn't matter if that character's Gen Z, a millennial, or a boomer. That character's just an asshole. And Kate Bishop's not an asshole. But I do enjoy Kate Bishop. And I enjoy all of the subtext in the episodes. I'm really excited for it. I think I'm going to stay up to 3 a.m. to watch it. Because last week, when it did come out, I had a full day ahead of me that I was supposed to take part in, and I didn't really want to take part in any of it because I just wanted to stay home and watch Hawkeye. So I just pushed a bunch of things back and then watched Hawkeye. Last two shows I don't really want to dive too much into because we don't have that much time left together today, and we still got to talk about the other current shows that are happening, and we got to talk about a bunch of films that I'm really digging, or that I really enjoyed. But I would say the other two newcomers for this month are Lost in Space, which December 1st, so that's in a few days from now, season 3 premieres. I had to go back and realize and go, what didn't I watch originally? And apparently what that was is I ended the show on season 1, episode 10, I stopped watching at the beginning of the season finale. Not because I didn't enjoy the show, but it was a light show that didn't mean that much to me. And I think I put it on the burner for some reason and said, hey, eventually I'm going to get back there. And never really had the motivation or intention. I did have the intention to get back there. But because season 3 is happening, now I have the motivation and the intention to get back there. So I watched the last episode of season 1 and I enjoyed it. I think that I've spent so much time in the last year and a half enjoying such other space shows, including Cowboy Bebop, which I just shit all over, that it may not hit the spot as much because it's so family friendly. But I don't know. I'm going to watch season 2. I could be proven wrong. They could have upped the stakes knowing what else has gone around them. And then last show that I'm going to talk about for the newcomers is a show called Arcane League of Legends, which is a Netflix show, animation. I don't know anything about League of Legends, right? It's like an RPG game, right? That's a commercial that pops up on my YouTube advertisement. Well, I sound like a noob, but I am a noob. I'm not a gamer. That's the problem with this world. Hoes be playing too many games. Wow, that was terrible. So I don't really know nothing. I know nothing about League of Legends. I know nothing about none of that stuff. But the commercials have been popping up on my YouTube. They must know that it's something I'd be really into. And I was very excited to watch it, and I really did want to watch it, and I watched the first episode, and I liked it, and I can't wait to watch the second episode. Once again, very low pressure, very low stakes for me. Just something to enjoy to fill my tummy as I stuff it up with all of this media. We'll be right back with some current shows that are going on real quick, and then we'll get into the film list. So when we talk about other current shows, there's not really much that matters except for my Sunday night giggles. On Sunday nights, for at least an hour and a half, maybe close to like an hour 44 minutes, I am laughing and giggling and jumping up and down like my niece, like my 10-year-old niece was on her birthday after getting all of this candy. I do it for an hour and a half every week, and it's because some of the best shows on television are going on back to back to back. That's Succession, that's Insecure, and that's Curb Your Enthusiasm. Sometimes, not right now because it's on hiatus, but actually it comes back. It's this week. It's this Thursday. So it's only been on for Thanksgiving break. But Jesus and Meryl and Last Week Tonight are part of that too. but specifically Insecure, Succession, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's tension, it's drama, it's comedy, and I giggle. I giggle for an hour and 40 minutes straight. And just to focus and to give Succession the highlight that it deserves. This show is not only probably the best show on television, if not just top 5, one of the best shows on television, not only because it's fun, not only because it's snarky, not only because it's disrespectful, but it's that in every moment, in every scene, every character is being a piece of shit. They are a piece of shit. And they're acting like a piece of shit. But something is simultaneously, whether in the background or in front of their face, is happening to them that is extremely depressing, is extremely embarrassing, and is something sometimes that you wouldn't want to wish on anybody, even the biggest asshole in the world. And you're watching both things happen at the same time, and it makes you feel dirty, it makes you feel bad for dirty characters, it makes you hate these people, it makes you want to laugh with these people. It truly is terrible people doing terrible things to each other. And you're there for the ride. And it almost feels like you're going to be affected by it, but you have no power or no say in it, so what the hell does it matter anyway? Other current shows that are on Axios, HBO documentary series, interview series. I liked it too. It's not as good as The Circus. It's not as good as Vice, but it is informative. And I do think it's a vital part of my week. It's been going for about a week or two, but I'm pretty sure it'll be back soon. And I just want to give a shout out to LeBron James, The Shop Interrupted, because he produced this show, he created this show, sometimes he's on it. But their schedule was like, hey, whenever the hell we make a new episode, HBO upload it. And that is the ultimate goal. We'll be right back with a film list. So clearly, I rambled too much today. Or maybe this is just a case of the overconsumption that I was speaking about. But we decided this was going to be an hour show. We have 5 minutes left. And we still have to talk about Film List, which is the longest film list that we've had so far. Specials, which is the longest specials list that we've had so far. And the music list is not very long. We can kind of skip that today. We'll just graze upon it because I do want to give these people the shine. And I'm wasting time talking about doing the things that I could be doing right now. So, all right, let's get into the film list. I'm sorry. Am I rushing you? Are you rushing me? I don't know. I'm Puerto Rican. Dad joke? Terrible, right? Okay, Venom 2. Last month, I was supposed to have seen Venom 2. Let's say I didn't see it the way I wanted to, if you know what I mean, but I liked it. Venom does what Venom does. I think I'd like Venom to be more of an anti-hero, more of a slightly bad guy film. But Sony, almost in the same way that Netflix, they want to give you a character that you enjoy so that they can sell you a lot of products. So I get it. The post-credits scene. Venom is now in the MCU, or now connects to the MCU. Or maybe we have to wait till the Spider-Man Far From Home post-credits scene to fully understand what it means. I am a huge Spider-Man fan, as you know. You know, amazing responsibility behind me. Right next to you, camera, is literally at least 20 Funko Pops that are all Spider-Man. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around how they're trying to connect Venom to the MCU, so I don't know how a gradual viewer is going to do it. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. Maybe because I want them to do it right and because I want them to do it perfectly. And maybe just the casual viewer doesn't care. You know, you've given me space gods falling from the sky. I'll believe anything. But I'm really trying to cross my fingers that they don't mess this up. We're less than a month away from Far From Home. I'm gonna love it regardless. We know that. Like, there's not a question about it. Will it hit all the spots that it needs to hit? I'm optimistic. I'm positive about it. I just think that what they're doing is extremely ambitious. And I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know if it's only being driven by greed. But I'm down for the ride because it's something that I never, ever, ever in a million years expected that I would get. Moving on from Venom 2, which is apparently in the I'm happy Venom is in the MCU. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like not extremely confident on how they've executed this. But I don't know anything yet. I'm speculating. Don't get hyped up before it happens. Just enjoy the ride. And I'm trying to enjoy the web swing. But it's hard to enjoy the web swing when I just found out that Spider-Man is Peter and it's all over the city. That's what Mary Jane is saying. Alright, I'm done. My Mary Jane. My Mary Jane was white. Don't start the hashtag. Please don't start the hashtag. My Mary Jane was white. My MJ was white. So staying into the Marvel MCU, we have Eternals. So this was what I was leading up with the Foundation conversation. It's how you leave them, folks. It's how you end the show. And Eternals left me upset. Not upset, because I didn't know what to expect. I just think it did so much, or it tried to do so much, but actually did so very little. First hour was just all exposition, slow story building. Probably felt like literally the opposite of a Marvel film. It felt like a Oscar nominated 3-hour film with no score. It wasn't like this, but like that's kind of how it led you on like this roller coaster. And those films, you know, like a Leonardo DiCaprio film. There's a specific film that I have in mind with Philip Seymour Hoffman. That's not the something. Well, I won't look for it right now. But that's in my mind where it's like just a slow start and then it takes off. Almost like a Tarantino film. You know, where it's like giving you exposition, and then blows up. That's how it starts. But then it never blows up. But in the middle, there is a great action-packed, surprisingly complex, and unexpected story that comes out of it. But it just does not end well. It didn't end on a cliffhanger. It ended just on a lackluster ending. That made me not really understand why it ended that way, and also not that interested in what you can come back with. I feel like they kept telling us, like, hey, we're in the MCU, but did nothing to connect to the rest of the movies. And maybe that's the issue. Maybe this is proof that you can't exactly make a standalone movie in the MCU anymore. It has to build to the bigger story. Now I have seen, and I'll give shout outs to Ryan Airy from Screen Crush, give this beautiful 12 or 13 minute video essay on what the Eternals all meant, and the way that he was able to look at it, he was actually able to create a direct line and show that it's the retelling of the Bible in the MCU. And when you connect the dots in that way, it's a beautiful story. Maybe if I go back after watching it in that context, I will be able to see it with completely new light, even down to the ending. But if I gotta do all that, I shouldn't have to do all that. Shouldn't have to go do research after I watch a movie to be able to enjoy it. Christopher Nolan, Tenet. The fuck? Moving on. It's Army of Thieves. Oh, we've already crossed an hour. We're gonna keep going. This is the overconsumption episode. Let's overconsume a little bit. You see my half glitch? 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 So, Army of Thieves. If you don't know, Army of the Dead came out earlier this year. Zack Snyder, I really, really loved it. Like, too much. Almost. I love the world that he built. I really like Zack Snyder, actually. I'm not crazy what he did. I don't like so much what he did. Or maybe I don't like what came out of his work with DC. I was happy to get the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. It is extremely so much better than the original, but I hated the original. So, even being going up to a 4 from a 0 is still a huge step up. I'm not saying Justice League is a 4. I'm just saying very low bar, very low expectations of making it better. And I do think it did a good job, but I still don't love it. But I loved Army of the Dead. And the cool thing is that Netflix, and I shit on Netflix a bit this episode, so it's good to be able to also give them their props and their kudos. The cool thing is that for the first time, studios are being able to fully capitalize in the dreams of their creators. You know what I mean? Alright, this is a good example of it. That couldn't be proven better than when Disney did. Just happened. It gave us a fanboy's orgasm, a fanboy's live orgasm. I remember the rumors of Moon Knight being a show, thinking I think at the time it was going to be a CW show, and if you've ever watched anything that I've done, then you've probably heard me talk about how much I dislike CW shows and the idea of having to get through 23 episodes of a show to tell me a story, because really all you're doing is pushing product and pushing commercials. But now I'm getting a Oscar Isaac, one of the finest movie stars that is taking place right now, and a series that is going to feel like a Hollywood film on a weekly basis.
I can't help you with that on Mac.
I just woke up, Siri. Thank you for being here. Well, that's what Army of Thieves. I just put Moon Knight over to give Army of Thieves praise. But really, Army of Thieves wasn't so necessary. The lead actor, I can't remember his name, and if I did remember his name, I know that it's a hard enough name that I may not be able to say it correctly anyway, so I don't even want to butcher it. But the main actor, the main actor is incredible at that role. I'm not shitting on him, but I'm just saying he was really able to create a character within that role. And I appreciate him for it. I like him for it. Somehow they got the girl from Game of Thrones and Fast and Furious. Oh, what is her name? Natalie Emmanuel? I hope that's right. Somehow they took her character from Fast and Furious and was like, hey, let's put it in the Zack Snyder film. Because it's okay, you just do everything. You're this, you're that, you're that. You're a spy, you're a thief, you're that. You're a robber, alright, okay, Vin Diesel. But I think that the biggest thing to say out of this is very cool to be able to create a film. And before we even know if the film was going to do well or not, they gave the director the ability to do more. with that story to build into that world. There's also a lot more zombies in Army of Thieves than I ever thought there was going to be. And I enjoy that. It made sense. Do you like how I do all this? I do an hour plus of content, and I don't give no spoilers. I just tell you what it made me feel like. You like that? Do I get props for that? Huh? Does I? Does I get props? Props for that? Does I get props for that? Alright, let's move on. The harder they fall. The harder they fall. I mean, what was the big first thing you heard about it? Oh, Jay-Z and Kid Cudi are doing a song, their first song ever for it. That's not true. Jay-Z and Kid Cudi have a song on Blueprint 3 together. Like, that was Kid Cudi's first job after he got hired from Good Music. It was like, go work on 808s and Heartbreaks and go work on Blueprint 3. Do your research, people. I think I've read that as an article. I think that's why that sticks to me. But, you know, what can I say about The Harder They Fall? I love a good Western film. I love a strong Western film, right? Like I talked about Cowboy Bebop earlier. The part of the reason that Cowboy Bebop is so cool is that it's a great space Western. I love a black film with an all-black cast. Not in a pandering way, because I think you can pander to that too, but in a way that makes sense and that shows the realities of people's lives. Especially, right, like I don't know. I don't know if the percentage is like all 60% of cowboys were black men. You don't see that on television. Idris Elba's great. Regina King is great. Jonathan Majors is great. Dion Cole is great. Zazie Beetz is great. Zazie Beetz. Oh, she's great. She's great. Which Wayne's son is in it? He's great. Yeah, it's just great. And like, I enjoy that I can watch an all-black film with an all-black cast that's a Western film and just be like, yo, that was great, it was unique, it was interesting, cool. Move on. Because, not that it's becoming the norm, but we are living in the world that it's possible. And that's the world I want to live in. You know, I didn't have to go into a niche movie theater to go watch this. It was on Netflix. And that is when our stars, right, when our icons, when our Jay-Z's, like, I think that is what their position, that is what they should be doing with their power. They should be giving opportunities and changing the perspective of the future, because that's what you do with that voice. And I think it's important to highlight it, but it's also incredible that we don't have to highlight it too. And the last film that we're going to talk about, because I still haven't finished Finch. I'm only an hour into it. I really liked it. I just paused it because I had something to do that night, and because of my overconsumption, I haven't gotten back to it. So when I get back to it, I'm probably going to watch the whole thing all over again. So the only other film that we really have to talk about tonight is Red Notice. Starring The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, Fast and the Furious recap. Alright. Because Fast and the Furious reunion, they're all back together. Ryan Reynolds was in Hobbs and Shaw. Wonder Woman, Black Adam, Deadpool in a movie together. Like, straight movie stars. Ryan Reynolds has an amazing career because he was able to literally put himself into every single role, and that's like, who is his agent? How is he able? Who writes his scripts? Does he write? I don't know. amazing. The Rock was going around in interviews telling everybody that he knew he had to do the movie when he read the twist in it. So I went into the movie expecting for there to be a twist. And now I think, don't do that, Rock. I know you think it's cool to do that because you're like, you want to bring as many people in to watch the movie, and it's a film, it's not real life, so whatever you can tell them to get them to come in. But I think don't do that, because I think, even though I expected it almost in the same way I did with True Story, where I'm like, alright, there's something going on here, and my brain is trying to figure out the whole time. There also, when you tell me there's a twist, my brain is waiting for the twist the whole time too. And I think that does take you out of the film a little bit. But it's great. I don't talk about wrestling too much on this show because if you want to hear my thoughts and you want to get into my passion about wrestling, then you would be watching Cuz the Silent P Said So on the Cool Company YouTube channel or podcast channel. But I will say something that the average viewer, person who watched Red Notice won't know is that WWE, The Rock's place of employment, did a wrestling show called Survivor Series, which The Rock also premiered on 25 years ago, and did a branded integration. And nobody really cared about Survivor Series anyway, but it was absolutely horrible. And it was a 3-hour or 4-hour commercial for Red Notice, and it made a lot of people never want to watch WWE ever again, but it made them a lot of money, and it will allow WWE to continue to do things like that. So Red Notice was enjoyable, but I think it added some negativity and evil into the world. Now, 3 specials. We're almost at an hour and 15 minutes. I think we've stuffed ourselves, we've eaten a lot, but I think we can get done with this by an hour and 20 minutes. So, no transition, no break for specials. Let's just dive right into specials. So there are 3 specials that we're going to dive into that that had a major impact on me. Each of them very differently. I had, let's call it a manic night. That can mean a lot of different things. I'll let you figure out what it means. But I had a manic night. This is not the same night I stayed up till 5 a.m. This is another night where I was up till probably 8 a.m. And after the true journey of my night, I decided to watch something that I knew was going to connect with me very deeply. And that was A Man Named Scott. The Kid Cudi film that has basically documented and basically went into a deep dive into the last 10 or 12 years of Cudi's career. And I think the most important thing I can say about that is just to talk about how greatly Cudi has had an impact on me. I remember working at American Apparel. That first Man on the Moon album came out, and we played it non-stop. We played it constantly. We didn't care who thought anything about it because it was an album for a generation almost immediately. Before this even happened, my graduation day, Kid Cudi did a free concert in South Street Seaport. We were out there. There was maybe 30, 40 of us. It wasn't even that crowded. I think it might have rained a little bit, and Kid Cudi performed for us. He asked us in the crowd, like, what song y'all want to hear? And when we said it, he played it. And at that moment, I wasn't the hugest Kid Cudi fan, but I respected him so much for that moment. And to watch this movie, to watch this documentary, I don't care about how good it was cinematically, because obviously Kid Cudi had a play in producing it and creating it, and it it seemed like it was important for him. And as somebody who has been so greatly affected by what he has done, I'm happy for him to be able to have something like that for himself. And therefore, for us too. Moving on to another special, Michael Che, Shame the Devil. I've seen Michael Che specials before. I don't know if I saw his last one. I don't think it. Well, he said he hasn't done one in 5 years, so I don't know. Maybe he did another project. I feel like there's a Michael Che project that I didn't see, in somewhat in his discography. But watching Michael Che for the first time in 5 years. Let's say I don't really remember his pieces that greatly from before. It's great to see somebody be like, yo, I make smart comedy. And yeah, motherfucker, this shit is smart. If you're not smart, fuck off. Because, Dave Chappelle talks about, like, I make real comedy. If you don't like real comedy, fuck off, right? Like, that's what everybody talks about. And I think people could crap on Michael Che because, like, he does Saturday Night Live, and they could say that maybe he is working for a certain audience, right? Because that's what people say when you don't connect where they want you to connect, or you don't perform where they want you to perform. But I think he has been able to really take that all in and be like, fuck off. This is the shit I make. If you don't like it, and if you don't understand it, then it's not for you. But I can definitely say that there are people who do like it. And I think that's really cool to be able to say that. And I did enjoy his piece. Literally, from beginning to end. Last piece. Wow, this is another like 3 a.m. piece. Have I not been sleeping? Have I not been sleeping in the last month? Is that what this is coming down to? I met Billie Eilish. Through another piece. But Billie Eilish, I don't know, somehow we end up meeting at like 3 a.m. all the time. Which is probably strange because I'm a 30-year-old man and she is not as old as me. So why is Billie Eilish the home that I'm searching for at 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. Genuinely, no clue why. But thank you for being here when I need you anyway, Billie. No, but so a few weeks ago, like, I don't know, it was early in the morning. You know what it is? And I could speak about it. Billie Eilish is truly living like a 2021 pop star life. That's cool. And I admire that. I think that there are very few people who actually become pop stars in the world, right? And they get to live out dreams and aspirations that most people will never ever be able to touch. They get to live out dreams and aspirations that they never expected to be able to do. So it's really cool to be able to watch in real time. A few weeks ago, there's an Apple TV Billie Eilish special that's like 2.5 hours long, and I watched maybe the first hour, maybe the first 45 minutes of it, and I just enjoyed watching it. Now I knew there was a Disney Plus one that I wanted to get to, so I decided to put that on at 3 a.m. And what it was a live concert experience that was like mixed in with a Disney cartoon, and then I saw that it was like directed by Robert Rodriguez, and I'm like, yo, what a cool moment for and then it was featuring the choir that she grew up being a singer in. Just what a cool moment in Los Angeles inside of an empty Orpheum Theater. And then she played the album from beginning to end, so it's actually the first time I've ever listened to a Billie Eilish album. Cool. I really like pop music when it's done right and when it means something, because it is literally a popular cultural experience that so little people actually get to live. And it's a cool thing to experience and to exhibit. Now, we passed the hour and 20 minute mark, but that's fine. We won't take any more breaks. we'll just end this episode speaking about music. I can't remember if I've spoken about HDBeenDope on this show before, but HDBeenDope is a young Brooklyn artist. He's probably 20 years old. One day a week, because I'm an old man, I try to like put on MTV and try to put it on in the background because I don't know, part of me thinks it's important to just stay connected with everything that's going on, you know, bring it back to that level of over consuming to stay satisfied. But HDBeenDope, I've been following him. Like, he's kind of small, right? Like 17,000 followers, but he's a really great rapper. He has an interesting perspective. And I like his visuals. That's really what captured me at first. So he just dropped out a new album, and it's great. Like, that I'm listening to like these 18 and 20-year-olds, you know, Baby Keem and HDBeenDope, part of my regular listening habit and part of my regular stream. You know, it's weird being inspired by younger kids and being inspired by the peers. That's a weird thing as an adult, but I enjoy it and I'm a big fan of it. Other than that, HDBeenDope and Earl on a Beat project. It's called Side A, the Preface EP. There's a song by this guy named Buju, who is, I believe, a West African artist. It's called Never Stop, and it is a banger. His whole album is good, but officially, Never Stop has kind of made it into my regular stream and my mainstream thing of things. And then the last music piece and the last real piece of content we're going to talk about today's episode is Big Sean and Hit Boy's album, which I was able to listen to once. I was a very huge Big Sean fan. I've seen Big Sean at Warped Tour around the time of the, what is that, Finally Famous 2 or Finally Famous 3 album. You know, he's going, as he's gotten bigger, we maybe have fallen off. I maybe listened to the first Detroit album. I did miss a few albums in between there. I think he has a perspective that people sleep on him. I think maybe people do sleep on him. I think he became a pop star when he was like, had the champagne early in the morning, champagne and gone. I can't remember how that song goes. But I think he became a pop star really quickly, and that is not always so cool because people don't expect you to be a pop star forever. So if you don't keep it up, they don't want anything to do with you. I will say I'm a big fan of Hit Boy, and even though I like Big Sean and Falling Off, the album's good. It just doesn't sound right. Like, it don't bang, it don't hit. It feels like it's not mixed right, and I feel like that's a problem with a lot of Big Sean's albums. That the production just doesn't sound as good as it should be. And that is very unfortunate because it's almost, you can't get past it. It almost makes a lot of the listens unmemorable and unfocused. And we did it, folks. It is genuinely still Monday on the West Coast. I'm not on the West Coast, but that's okay because I am your manic host of Mondays, Manic Music Media Mondays. We got to a number 5 next month. The last Monday of the month, I believe, is the 2 days before my 30th birthday. That's pretty insane. You're at like a You're watching me at a pivotal point of my life, right? Or maybe you're not. Maybe it's just another day of my life, and maybe these are the stipulations that we put on our own life. But there's a good chance that next month's episode is taking place in Mexico, right before I turn 30 years old. Or there's a chance that it could be somewhere else and something else is happening. Who knows? This is Manic Music Media Mondays. Monday. My name is Tyler PSwitch Dow. That P is silent. If this is your first time watching this, thank you for getting to the end. If you're watching this on Twitch, Make sure you follow so you get notified every time I do a video. Not only do Manic Music Media Mondays, but we do other things on this channel. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out the Manic Music Media Mondays playlist. We have 5 episodes up officially now that this episode is up. But also, we have tons of clips that are broken down. If you just don't have a full hour or an hour and a half, that's how much this episode took. If you don't have an hour and a half to watch something like this, watch the clips broken down, share them with a friend, comment on them, hit the like button. That all really helps. You hear it from every YouTuber. It really means it. Half of you are still not going to do it, or 60% analytically. But telling you does raise the stock a little bit more. Also, check out The Cool Company. I do Saturday Morning Synopsis with Nia Fields. I do Cause the Silent P Said So, which is my wrestling podcast. You can hear me nerd out. Quite similarly to the way that I nerd out to the open media in this. But you can see it about another art form that I'm extremely passionate about. And lastly, after you subscribed on YouTube, actually, I believe this one is actually up on Facebook. So follow on Facebook too. On Facebook, the Transparent music video is at 86,000 views currently. I believe we're going to hit 100K in no time. And that is a big accomplishment. So I'm happy for that. So make sure you're one of those viewers and checking in that. And Transparent is off my album, Too Cool. So go and stream that. Go listen to all the rest of my music, Tyler PSwitch Dow. If you're on Spotify, become a listener, become a follower, Apple Music, Tidal, SoundCloud, wherever you get your music to. And I just want you to have a great, productive rest of your week. I hope that you keep your cool. I hope that in this world of overconsumption, where we do too much, you could take a moment and you can enjoy it. And you can breathe. And you can keep your shit together. My name is Tyler PSwitch Dow. Please enjoy yourself.